Welcome back to Your Average Investor. Today we're going to talk about JEPI and if it's a good dividend stock to buy. Now, the unique thing about JEPI, one of them, is that it pays monthly dividends. So if you're into monthly dividend stocks, this could be one to look at. Again, this is not investment advice, and as always, hit that subscribe button to support the channel. So let's just talk a little bit about what JEPI is. JEPI is similar to like QYLD. It's an investment ETF that is designed to provide investors with monthly income, primarily through selling covered calls on underlying securities. So they'll buy stocks, sell covered calls, use the premium to pay dividends. Now, what's interesting about these is, like, if you look like QYLD, for example, if I can type that, is they generally follow a pattern like this if they're blindly selling covered calls at the money or just out of the money, because when the stock falls, this falls precipitously with it, but this has a hard time recovering because it's always capping its upside. So when QQQ swung up 100% in a year, this moved up just a little bit. And because of that, even though QQQ is sitting here at basically all-time highs, QYLD, which is supposed to be a covered call fund based on the QQQ, is sitting near all-time lows. It doesn't necessarily mean you've lost money, though. Let me show you what I mean. So looking at JEPI, let's just assume, for the sake of this, you got into JEPI when it was really being hyped up, like here at the beginning of 2022. And let's just say you put $10,000 in, like literally. You bought at almost the peak. Just at the first open day of market, 2022, you bought 10,000 shares at about $63 a share. And let's assume every month you reinvested your dividends back into JEPI, but you never put any new money in. You just reinvested your dividends. Well, your JEPI shares are down a little bit because you bought here at 63. The price now is 56.7. But take a look at this. Let me show you something about JEPI. So we're going to use mydividendcalculator.com. This is a great tool that we built for you guys. We're actually still building some of it, but it's mostly working. So you can go here, type in any stock, and it will show you the dividend history for that stock back several years. And then it will show you the dividend yield based on the current stock price and a future dividends calculator based on this data here. It says if these hold the same, where it increases by 11% per year, the dividend increases by 11% per year, and the stock decreases by X% per year, this is what might happen. This isn't a good one to do it on because there's not enough history, but let me show you with Home Depot. Right, so Home Depot increases on average 7% per year, dividend goes up by 15% per year. So I can say, well, what if I put in $10,000 on Home Depot, I reinvest the dividends, and every month I put in an extra $500 and I hold that for the next 20 years. Hit calculate future dividends. Then I can see 20 years from now I'll have put in about $130,000. My position might be worth, again, this is just estimates. It's taking this data and extrapolating it forwards. It's just estimates. I might be worth about $750,000 of a million, and I'll be making dividends of $86,000 a year based on that dividend growth of an annual growth of 15%. That's phenomenal, right? I'm putting in $130,000 total. My dividends are $80,000 a year. That's great if I believe that Home Depot will continue to perform the same over the next 20 years, right? It's a big if, but I could do the same with like SPY. I could say, hey, take a look at SPY, grows 11% per year, dividends up 6%, so it's kind of flopped, right? The growth of SPY is higher, the dividend growth is lower, and I could do the same thing, hit calculate, and now I can see after several years, 130,000 in, $500,000 out, making $2,500 a year in dividends. I personally think there's some fine tuning I need to do on this to get these percentages to be a little more accurate, because I think that SPY actually increases their dividend by more than 6% per year. But I'll be making this better over time. This just gives you a rough snapshot, right? That's all it is. It's just a rough snapshot. It's not investment advice. It obviously isn't guaranteed future results. It's just a way to say, what if, right? So here's what it looks like, what if, with JEPI. Remember, what we're talking about is what if you bought right here at the peak, you never bought again, you threw 10K in, and then you just reinvested dividends in buying new shares. Well, this is what that looks like. Initially, you start with about 158 shares, and then we'll assume you can get partial shares because you're trading on Robinhood or whatever. And then you buy 1.19 shares with your dividend, then 1.02, 1. Blah, blah, blah. This shows you the total value based on your total number of shares times the stock price. Well, at the very end of the day, I now have $11,000, and I'm making dividends of about $71 a month. that's pretty dang good. The dividend stayed pretty consistent. You know, it's grown and fell a little bit, but $11,000, and I'm making dividends again. So I'm up 12% on my initial investment, and I'm continuing to make dividends. Now, this, of course, is if you have continued to reinvest all of your dividends back into buying more JEPI stock. Otherwise, it would look something like this. This is another way to look at it, right? What if you just held and then took the dividends for yourself? Well, in this case, you would have been paid dividends. Let's just do a little sum right here of $2,000 over the course of that, and your position is worth about $9,000. So add that together, right? And we've got $1,100. So you're still up 10%. You're not up as much, but you're still up because the dividend payments have more than overcome the loss in price appreciation. So don't be scared away necessarily when you see things like this. And in one of our future videos, I'm going to do the same thing for QYLD. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to literally do it from fund inception, right? Because if you bought here at fund inception at $25, now we're sitting at 17, that's like a 33% loss. That's a big loss. But what will be interesting to know is how, if you just kept on reinvesting the dividends or not, how much would you be up or down today? Anyway, JEPI's a really interesting one if you like income. I like it. Personally, I don't own any right now. I own other income ETFs, and I sell covered calls myself. That's actually the primary reason I don't own it, is I like just buying the shares and selling the covered calls myself. So I own 100 shares of SPY. I sell covered calls on that. I own a couple hundred shares of Tesla. I sell covered calls on that. Same thing with almost every other stock that I buy. I'm selling covered calls on it when I feel like the price has gone up too much and is due for a pullback, and I use that to generate extra income. And I feel that by doing that personally, I can beat the 10% that these guys give. But if you want something that's totally passive, not a bad idea to get in here. And again, doesn't matter if you reinvested dividends or not. Either way, based on the total payments plus the current price today, you would be up on your position. So what that means, it's really cool actually, for JEPI at least, because we took this and we assumed that you bought at the top. Let's say you bought at fund inception down here at $50 per share. Well, in that case, you'd be really up because you'd have a whole nother year and a half worth of dividends, or yeah, year and a half, plus you'd be up from when you bought in. You bought in here at $50 a share. It's now at $56 a share, so you're up, 5%, 5 and a little bit. And you've gained a ton of dividends over that time. So I like it. I think it's interesting. I think JPMorgan, based on what I see on this chart, they do a pretty good job managing the fund. Much better than what I can see from QYLD. QYLD worries me, but I'm going to do an in-depth analysis on this. So that's it for JEPI. Hit that subscribe button. Let me know what you think. Tell me, do you guys own shares of JEPI? How many shares do you own? We'll catch you next time.